Usually when we think about a camera, we tend to think of it as this completely passive tool.
Right, like it's just a mirror, basically.
Exactly. It's just a mirror. You point at a beautiful sunset, you get a sunset. You point it at a family gathering, and you get a memory.
Yeah, it just neutrally records whatever happens to be, sitting right in front of the lens.
Right. It's just glass and metal.
Glass, metal, and light mechanics. A totally objective observer just capturing a fraction of a second.
But then you encounter someone who doesn't see that piece of equipment as a passive observer at all. Someone who picks up that glass and mechanics, looks through the viewfinder, and says, no, this isn't a mirror. This is a weapon.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the moment you change the definition of the tool from a mirror to a weapon, I mean, you completely change the trajectory of what photography can actually do to a society.
You really do. And that is exactly what we're getting into today. Welcome to another deep dive. Today we are unpacking the life, the lens, and the absolute genius of Gordon Parks.
Such an incredible figure.
He really is.
Yeah.
And we've got a fantastic stack of sources for you today, including an incredibly detailed historical article and a deeply passionate audio discussion that breaks down his whole visual philosophy.
It's some really great material.
Yeah, and our mission for this deep dive is to figure out exactly how Parks transformed photography from, simple flat documentation into this profound narrative-shifting storytelling medium.
But before we dive in, just a quick heads up for you listening. Our sources today pull absolutely zero punches about the realities of 20th century America.
Right.
We are going to be looking closely at severe systemic racism, rigid segregation, and, extreme poverty. And we're just acting as your guides through this historical material.
Exactly.
We're looking at these events and viewpoints exactly as they were documented at the time, taking political sides today. We just want to unpack how these raw realities really shaped his art and his worldview.
Yeah, let's unpack this, because to truly understand how Gordon Parks used his camera to fight societal injustice, we have to start long before he ever even held one.
We really do.
We have to rewind all the way to 1912. We are going to Fort Scott, Kansas.
Right. So, born into a poor farming family, Parks entered the world during a period of incredibly severe racial segregation in the United States.
It's just incredibly rigid.
Yeah, Fort Scott wasn't just a place where communities were casually separated. The boundaries between black and white residents were absolute. I mean, they were rigid and often brutal lines drawn through schools, hospitals, housing.
In every single aspect of daily life.
Exactly. You couldn't just step over them. It was the defining reality of his world.
And the sources highlight this really tragic turning point that just shatters whatever fragile stability his childhood had. He lost his mother when he was just 15 years old.
Oh, man. Which is just an unimaginably young age to be cast entirely adrift. With her passing, his family structure basically fractured, and he was essentially forced out into the world to survive entirely on his own.
At 15.
Yeah. And from a psychological standpoint, that completely rewires how a teenager views the world.
And survive he did, but I mean, it was incredibly raw. The sources say he worked as a waiter, he's a train compartment attendant, even played piano in brothels just to make ends meet.
Whatever it took to survive.
Literally. And this is the detail that really stuck out to me from the material. Parks didn't learn about poverty from a sociology textbook.
No, not at all.
He didn't study marginalization from a safe academic distance where you can just, close the book when you get uncomfortable. He lived it in his bones.
Yeah.
There's this quote of his from the material where he described this era simply as, "The years I had to learn to survive."
Wow. And if we think about the mechanics of those specific jobs, I mean, it reveals so much about his future approach to photography.
So?
Well, think about it. When you are a train attendant serving wealthy passengers or, a piano player providing background music in a brothel, you are essentially treated as invisible by the people with money and power in the room.
Oh, totally. You're just part of the furniture.
Exactly. You become a fly on the wall to the American experience. You are seeing the absolute underbelly of society, the vulnerability, the quiet desperation.
You're watching people when their masks are completely off. You're seeing humanity unedited.
Yeah, exactly. And that lived experience built within him a profound, deeply ingrained empathy. He understood the people pushed to the margins of society because he was one of them.
Right.
The pain of the marginalized wasn't this abstract concept he wanted to explore for an art project, It was his daily reality.
But, I mean, empathy alone doesn't change the world, right? You need a way to communicate it.
You need a tool.
Which brings us to Chicago in the late 1930s. Parks is working, he's trying to survive, And he has this massive aha moment. He's looking through a magazine, and he comes across photographs of migrant workers.
Right. And specifically, these were photos taken by government-commissioned photographers who were documenting the intense struggles of the Great Depression.
And seeing these images, something just clicks for him. He realizes that a photograph isn't just a picture, it's a bridge.
Yeah.
It can actually force people to care about total strangers.
Right.
So what does he do? He goes to a pawn shop and buys a secondhand Voigtlander brilliant camera.
Which is just a fantastic starting point. But what's really crucial to understand about his development here is that he didn't enroll in some prestigious art school.
Oh, right.
He didn't learn about X-picture triangles and composition in, like, sterile classrooms or meticulously controlled dark rooms.
Yeah, the audio source we review uses this brilliant analogy for this. A classically trained photographer goes into a studio, sets up 3 expensive lights, and poses the subject to fit a preconceived idea.
Right, very controlled.
That's playing sheet music.
Yeah.
But Parks was a jazz musician.
I love that comparison.
So good. He walked into a room, felt the existing natural light, read the anxiety or the joy on the subject's face, and he just improvised his camera settings to match their frequency.
Yeah, he didn't force them into his frame. He adapted his frame to their reality.
Yeah, exactly.
He was tuning his instrument to the faces of the Black communities and the laborers in Chicago.
Well,
He wasn't relying on textbook theories. He was relying on his gut, his empathy, and, well, his sheer ability to connect with the human being standing in front of the lens.
but wait, I'm trying to square this with the next detail in the sources.
Okay, what is it?
Because he gets so good at this gritty, self-caught street style that he actually lands his first professional gig shooting fashion photography for Frank Murphy's store in Chicago. I mean, that requires meticulous lighting, staging, and selling an illusion. That feels like a massive leap from shooting raw emotion on the streets.
It does seem weird at first glance.
He's basically proving to the establishment that he can play their high-end game. Right.
He absolutely is proving he can play their game, and there's a very specific strategic reason for it. Fashion photography pays the bills.
Oh.
It provided a steady income, which was crucial for survival, obviously. But more importantly, he used the money from those polished commercial fashion shoots to directly fund his true passion.
His street documentary work.
Exactly. Furthermore, mastering fashion photography gave him undeniable technical capability. I mean, he proved he could light a subject flawlessly, frame a shot with elegance, and deliver professional results on demand.
So he has the raw empathy of the streets, combined with the technical polish of high fashion.
Yeah, quite the combo.
How does a guy with that specific toolkit end up taking on the racial hypocrisy of the United States government?
Well, his rising talent and that proven technical capability just couldn't be ignored for long. In the early 1940s, he is invited to Washington, D.C. to work for the Farm Security Administration, or the FSA.
Okay.
This was a massive federal agency tasked with documenting poverty across the country to show the American public why government aid programs were necessary.
Essentially, it was a sprawling public relations project for the New Deal.
Precisely. But the irony of this situation and what happens when he arrives in D.C. is just staggering.
What happens?
Here is Gordon Parks, carrying an official United States government ID badge, employed by a federal agency to document the struggles of the nation. And yet, because of the color of his skin, he is being turned away from restaurants.
You're kidding.
No, he is being barred from theaters in the nation's very capital.
I mean, the hypocrisy is blinding. You are employed by the government to tell the story of America, but the capital of America won't even let you buy a cup of coffee at a lunch counter.
Yeah.
That has to ignite something furious inside you.
Oh, it ignited a deep, fierce anger. But instead of letting that anger consume him or drive him out of the city, he channeled it directly into his equipment.
Into the camera.
Exactly. The government wanted him to document rural poverty out in the farmlands. Parks decided to turn his lens on the Capitol itself.
And this results in what might be one of the most important photographs of the 20th century. It's 1942. The photograph is titled American Gothic, Washington, D.C.
It is iconic.
If you're listening and haven't seen it, pause for a second to look it up.
Yeah, let's break down exactly what is happening in this image because the mechanics of it are brilliant.
Okay, so we all know the famous painting, American Gothic, right? The stern white farmer holding the pitchfork next to his daughter.
Right, classic Americana.
Parks recreates that exact rigid composition, but completely flips the meaning. His subject is a black cleaning woman named Ella Watson.
Yes.
She is standing there, looking straight into the camera lens with this unyielding expression. She's holding a broom in one hand and a mop in the other. And directly behind her, taking up the entire background, is a massive American flag.
But the true weaponization of this image lies in the focus and the juxtaposition.
Break that down.
By placing the American flag out of focus in the background, he's making a profound visual statement. The flag, the promise of the American dream, liberty, justice, it is literally blurred and out of reach for her.
Oh, wow.
Meanwhile, Ella Watson herself is in razor-sharp focus, holding the undeniable tools of her reality. A mop and a broom. It forces the viewer to reconcile the grand symbol of the country with the harsh reality of who is forced to clean up after it.
It's a pure audacity.
Yeah.
I mean, he wasn't just pressing a button. He was actively, aggressively challenging the American establishment.
Absolutely.
He was showing the invisible, subjugated labor that the shiny capital was actually built upon. And this is where he dropped that incredible quote. He said, "I used my camera as a weapon against racism, poverty, and injustice."
And that specific image proved it. It proved that photography didn't just have to be a passive record of what happened. It could be a sharp, critical commentary on why it was happening.
But here's the strategic problem, right? To really move the needle, to actually change the minds of the masses, he couldn't just have his photos sitting quietly in a government archive.
No, nobody would see them.
Right. He needed a massive megaphone.
He needed distribution. And in the 1950s, he found the biggest megaphone available in print media, which was Life magazine.
This is a monumental pivot. I mean, becoming one of the first black photographers for Life magazine meant that Parks was suddenly placing his images directly onto the coffee tables of millions of middle-class white Americans every single week.
It's massive.
He bypassed the galleries and went straight into their living rooms.
He was entering the mainstream consciousness at a scale that is honestly hard to comprehend today. And what he did with that platform is where his unique methodology truly shines.
Let's look at the 1957 Harlem Gang Leader essay.
Yeah.
The mainstream media at the time was doing what it often does, right? Fear-mongering.
Oh, absolutely.
They were pumping out headlines about bloodthirsty criminals and violent juvenile delinquents running rampant in Harlem.
They were stripping these young men of their context and dehumanizing them just to sell papers.
Exactly. But Parks gets the assignment for Life, and he does something completely counterintuitive. He finds this young gang leader, Leonard Red Jackson, and for days, Parks just hangs out with him.
Right.
No camera, no flashes, no notebooks, just Parks walking the streets, eating with them, listening to them.
Which is the ultimate exercise in patience. He was earning their trust. He waited until they literally forgot he was a photographer, until they just saw him as a presence.
Think about how you and I consume news today. You're probably doom scrolling right now, swiping past a tragedy or a conflict in like 3 seconds.
Yeah, easily.
Modern media is often hit-and-run journalism. Someone points a smartphone at a crisis for 10 seconds, posts it for engagement, and we swipe past it while we're waiting in line for coffee.
It's fast, and it completely strips the humanity away.
Right. But Parks was doing the exact opposite. He was practicing anti-doom scrolling. He marinated in their reality until he could capture their actual humanity, their despair, their youth, and their vulnerability. Not just the cheap violence for a sensational headline.
And he brought that immense technical skill we talked about earlier to capture that humanity.
Oh, totally.
Let's look at his 1956 Segregation Story. He went down to Alabama to photograph a black family living under the suffocating restrictions of Jim Crow laws. Now, the standard journalistic approach would be to shoot this in gritty, high contrast, black and white, to make it look like a miserable, urgent newsreel.
Right, the classic aesthetic of documentary suffering.
But he didn't do that. He shot it in vibrant, lush color. He used dramatic, cinematic lighting.
What makes a photo look like a movie set versus a newsreel, and psychologically, why does that change a reader's mind?
Well, gritty black and white photos often make the subjects look like case studies in a textbook. They look distant, almost historical.
Like they're not real people right now.
Exactly. Cinematic color lighting elevates the subject. It frames this family with the exact same dignity, warmth, and grandeur that a Hollywood director would use to light a major movie star.
Wow.
By lighting them beautifully in their everyday environments, he brought the viewers directly into the quiet, daily dignity of these people's lives. It forced the White Life magazine reader to look at this family picking out clothes or having a picnic and see their own families reflected back at them.
We see how that cinematic dignity worked for an American audience in the segregated South, but does that empathy translate across borders?
That's the real question.
Can a camera make a middle-class American care about a kid thousands of miles away who doesn't even speak their language?
And that was the exact test of the 1961 Flavio da Silva project.
Right. So Parks went to a severely impoverished favela in Rio de Janeiro, Brazil. He documented the life of an emaciated, asthmatic young boy named Flavio. This kid was basically keeping his siblings alive while his parents worked. The photos described in the sources are just gut-wrenching. But again, the mechanism here isn't exploitation. It's deep, patient empathy.
And the response from the public proved that his method worked universally.
It's crazy what happened.
The storytelling was so immediate and so powerful that the readers of Life magazine, people who had never met this boy, who lived continents away, spontaneously started mailing in donations.
They raised thousands and thousands of dollars. They raised enough money to actually bring Flavio to the United States for life-saving medical treatment.
Which is incredible on its own.
But they didn't stop there. They bought his entire family a new, safe home in Brazil. A photographic essay achieved that real-world intervention.
It's the ultimate proof of concept for his entire philosophy. He took his weapon, the camera, and used it to carve out a massive channel of pure human empathy across geographic, linguistic, and racial divides.
So we arrive at this fascinating juncture. Gordon Parks has completely mastered still photography. He's using cinematic lighting, he's crafting massive multi-page narrative arcs in the biggest magazines in the world. He has conquered print.
Yeah.
What is the only logical next step if you want to reach an even wider, more diverse audience?
You have to make the pictures move, you have to transition into filmmaking.
In the late 1960s, he starts directing. In 1969, he makes history as one of the first black directors for a major Hollywood studio with a film called The Learning Tree.
Right.
Which was beautifully based on his own tough coming-of-age childhood in Kansas.
He's translating that early lived experience, the survival, the segregation, directly into the mainstream cinematic language.
But then, 1971 happens.
Oh, here we go.
And this is where I really need you to help me square the circle, because I was reading through the sources and I did a massive double take. Gordon Parks directs Shaft.
The iconic Shaft.
Yes. The ultimate, cool, leather-clad, bulletproof, absolutely badass black private detective walking the streets of New York City to a legendary funk soundtrack.
Oh, yeah.
Wait a minute. How does the guy who shot the heartbreaking, empathetic story of little Flavio in a favela, or the quiet dignity of a family in Alabama, turn around and make a blockbuster action movie featuring a superhero-esque detective? Is this a complete contradiction of his life's work?
It seems like a wild, almost incomprehensible left turn, right? Like, where did this come from?
Exactly.
But if we look closer at the mechanics of what he was doing, it's not a contradiction at all. In fact, it's the exact same mission, just broadcasting on a different frequency.
Walk me through that. How is an action movie the same mission as a documentary photo essay?
Well, think about the historical context of Hollywood up to that point in 1971. Historically, black actors were almost entirely relegated to playing victims or servants or background characters waiting to be saved by the white protagonists.
Right. They were always the subject, never the hero.
Exactly. They were rarely, if ever, allowed to be the undeniable center of power and agency in a mainstream narrative. By creating Shaft, Gordon Parks essentially hacked Hollywood's white-dominated machinery.
Hacked it.
Yeah. He took their massive studio budgets, their expensive equipment, and their global distribution networks, and he used it to give black audiences something they had been starved of for decades. A powerful, uncompromising hero who bows to no one and solves his own problems.
Wow.
He kicked off the entire blaxploitation genre. He took the same empathy that made him want to humanize the marginalized and realized that sometimes what a marginalized community needs isn't just a documentary highlighting their pain.
They need a mythic hero celebrating their power.
Exactly.
Wow, okay, that connects all the dots perfectly. He's taking the narrative power away from the establishment and handing it directly to the audience. He wasn't abandoning his mission at all.
No,
He was just upgrading his weapon to 35mm film and studio distribution.
He recognized that pop culture is just as effective a tool for societal change as photojournalism.
When you step back and look at this entire journey, it is genuinely almost unbelievable. From a pawn shop camera in Chicago, funded by shooting local fashion,
It's challenging the federal government in D.C. with a mop and a broom,
to dominating the coffee tables of America through Life magazine.
and breaking down the studio doors of Hollywood to create a cultural icon.
Gordon Parks left behind an incredibly vast visual archive of our societal memory. He proved definitively that a camera can force a society to stop and look at its own reflection, flaws and all.
He took the invisibility cloak off of systemic inequality, and he demanded that we look.
And to you listening, I want to pose a challenge based on this deep dive. The next time you are scrolling through your phone, rapidly swiping past images of global tragedies or local hardships in 3 seconds flat, just stop.
Yeah, take a breath.
Remember the method of Gordon Parks. Remember the immense patience it takes to hang out without the camera, to build trust, to look for the humanity, rather than just consuming the headline. Ask yourself what you are really seeing and what you might be entirely missing because you're moving too fast to care.
And that brings up a really provocative final thought for us to mull over today.
What's that?
Well, we've seen how Gordon Parks used commercial fashion photography to silently fund his early, gritty street work. And then we saw how he used massive mainstream corporate platforms like Life magazine and the major Hollywood studios to sneak his revolutionary ideas about equality and representation right into middle-class living rooms and mainstream movie theaters.
He used the master's tools to redesign the house.
He did. And it makes you wonder what the mechanics have changed today. If you want to truly change the system and challenge inequality right now, do you stand outside the building with a protest sign and shout? Or is the most effective weapon infiltrating the biggest platforms we have, like a viral social media algorithm or a massive global streaming giant, to force people to finally see the invisible from the inside out? Are we supposed to reject the platforms or master them so well that we can hack them for good?
That is the ultimate question. Are we trying to build a completely new platform or just hack the algorithm of the one we already have, the way Parks hacked Hollywood?
Food for thought.
Definitely. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive into the extraordinary life, lens, and legacy of Gordon Parks. I highly, highly encourage you to go explore his images for yourself.
You really should.
Look closely into the eyes of Ella Watson or Red Jackson. Experience what it feels like when the camera isn't just a mirror reflecting the world, but a weapon that shoots back.
Until next time.